everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Ask Natalie. I'm Natalie, and I am actually feeling pretty freaking awful this week, but I really wanted to make sure that we get this week's episode on the books, on the internet, for you. I didn't want to skip a week, and on the plus side, I'm wearing my specs, so I am at least 37% smarter. That's just science. Okay, so funny enough, this week's episode, or this week's letter rather, is from somebody who's writing about makeup. And I find it hilarious that when I'm sick and all like, I'm talking about looking glamorous. I mean, that's sort of like that cosmic balance, you know, the universe makes sure that we never tip too far to one side or the other. So me and my very not glamorous self are going to answer this letter from a young lady who refers to herself as 5 more minutes, please. She writes, "Hi, Natalie. So I was wondering about your thoughts on the acceptability of being done up in the wild. I go camping, hiking, climbing, and kayaking, and my boyfriend loves that I'm active, but he doesn't love that he has to wait for me to put a full face on. I just don't feel complete until I have my makeup on before walking out the door. I know it would be easy enough for anyone to say, 'Girl, do you?' I want a valid argument to give my boyfriend about why I'm worth the wait. So, girl, do you?" No, so obviously she's worth the wait. She's worth all the stars in the universe. We all are. We're all incredibly worthy, valuable, awesome human beings. But I think what she's speaking to in this letter is more the logistics of adventuring with other people. And whenever you've got more than one person going on a really exciting adventure, you've got more than one timeline to work with. And so I think there's 3 different ways this may play out. But before I get to that, I think it's important to note that I admittedly had a little bit of a judgy reaction to this letter. So initially I'm like, really? Like we're talking about makeup, which is just a jerk move on my part. But I felt obligated to share it with you all in case you were having a similar reaction and to sort of normalize this. As women in the outdoors, you know, I think we're faced with this really interesting dilemma that I don't think men face, in that, you know, we have these opportunities that didn't exist for women generations ago, where we can go out and do these really extreme things, or even things that aren't that extreme but maybe used to be considered extreme. And yet we are also expected to look incredibly attractive and you know, glamorous and uber feminine, in the sense of like what is considered stereotypically feminine. And those 2 things don't always go together, right? I don't know about you, but when I have spent the last however long climbing up 3,000 feet in elevation or more, I don't look that great. I'm sweaty, I probably stink, I'm hangry, my face is all red because I have this fair skin that shows like every capillary that exists in the human body. And so I'm bright red, my hair is like stuck to my face, my clothing is probably askew. There's a very high likelihood that I have some sort of stain on my person from like snacks or electrolyte drink mix or something, or dirt. Who knows? I don't look glamorous. Most of us don't. And so the more I thought about this letter, the less judgy I became, and the more I thought, wow, like what a beautiful example of how we all face this. And I think it's actually a really wonderful thing that this letter writer is like, hey, you know what? This is me. I feel most comfortable going out to do these outdoorsy activities when I do have my full makeup on. And I'm just going to own that. You know, I recognize that it's maybe not the most acceptable thing. I mean, her first line in the letter is like, what are your thoughts on the acceptability of being done up in the outdoors? So she recognizes that this is actually kind of controversial, even though something as basic as what we women choose to put on our face and the face we choose to present to the world really shouldn't be up for debate. It's a personal decision, and yet it really does link to these bigger issues. So I didn't mean to get all profound, dropping philosophy here, but it's true that no letter is just about this isolated thing that the letter writer is sending my way. It usually ties to these much bigger things, and it's worth thinking about those much bigger things. Now, in the case of 5 more minutes, please, her specific scenario where she says, hey, give me this convincing argument for my boyfriend. I think we've got 3 different options. I think the first option is that they plan to leave at 9 o'clock in the morning. The writer and her boyfriend, they say, 9 o'clock in the morning, we're going. And she's ready. She wakes up early enough to do her makeup, to get her face on. She's out the door at 9, along with him, just as they planned. I think in this scenario, the main issue is like, what's dude's problem? I mean, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but it's like, you agreed on this time, you're ready at this time, what's his problem? I don't think he needs convincing. I think in this issue, it's that he's so excited to start adventuring that he would rather go even earlier than the agreed upon time. And so when they could leave at 8 o'clock or 8:30 if she didn't do her makeup, he's like, let's go. Why not leave early? You're beautiful. I love you how you are. Why are we spending this extra half an hour on something that I deem is totally unnecessary? So in this sense, I don't really know if she really wants to argue with him. I mean, who wants to have the argument with their boyfriend? Like, actually, I'm heinous looking. Like, I need this extra 45 minutes because I look like a demon. If you don't want, nobody wants to convince their boyfriend that they look like a demon. That's just silly. So better to have the conversation about like, okay, so I appreciate your opinion. I know I don't need makeup, but I feel more comfortable in it and I'm going to keep putting it on my face. That's non-negotiable. So how do we make this work? Do you want to agree to an earlier go time? Would you feel better if we left even earlier? And then the letter writer can wake up even earlier so that her face is on and she's ready to go at the agreed upon time. The other scenario I think is a little stickier. And this is where, they plan to leave on this joint adventure at 9 and it's 9 o'clock and she's saying, I need another half an hour to finish my makeup. In which case, this just isn't cool. Girl power and all, and I love the ladies that send me in letters, and you're amazing. Without you, I wouldn't be able to record these little missives every week. But like, you don't make people wait on you. That's not cool, And I would say it the same way, just maybe less breathy if I weren't sick. But yeah, it's not cool, man. So wake up earlier. The only option in this case, if boyfriend is waiting around for the writer to finish her makeup, she can either wake up significantly earlier so that she's ready to go at the agreed upon time, or she can forego whatever it is that's making her late. Now that may be the makeup. It may be, taking a shower. It may be eating a full breakfast. I think personally foregoing the makeup is probably the most healthy option as opposed to like skipping breakfast, or having personal hygiene. But, ultimately she's the mistress of her own destiny. So she can choose whatever she damn well pleases. And then lastly, the third scenario is that they don't really have a definitive timeline. They just agree when we wake up, we'll get our stuff together and we'll go. And I don't think this is practical, especially if the boyfriend's given her a hard time about the time she spends on her makeup. I think it's better to have really clear expectations. And so this is actually the most easily solved option, in my opinion, because they can say, hey, 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. None of this whenever we roll out of bed, because in no universe is the letter writer going to be ready to go when her boyfriend is. She will always take longer than him. And he will always be antsy in his pantsy trying to get out the door. So better to just have very clear expectations, decide ahead of time when you want to get out of the house, and stick to that. No 5 more minutes. Set your alarm accordingly, fire up the coffee maker, and be sure that you're ready to go on time. So that's all I've got. I want to say something witty and charming, but honestly, I just keep thinking about how my throat hurts. So womp womp, that's what you guys get. And I thank you for bearing with me this week. And I hope to see you next week. And I hope to be in better spirits and healthier and still 37% smarter. Bye.